if I have a criticism, I just want more Dale Cooper. Like the more
Mm.
Dale Cooper you get, the better. And so I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but
Even
yeah,
though
so
this is a spoiler show.
yeah, but not for each other. I think we could draw the line there. It's like the ship sinks. Ha!
Yeah.
Um,
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would
Hey
be.
James, before we get going, I'm upping the staging of my of our set here. I've got Casablanca. This was a Christmas gift, and I finally got it. We actually there was glass or plastic, and it was too much glare. So Tammy kindly kind of made some alterations, and I think it's deglared now from your side. You
it
don't see any
is. I
glare
can
over
see
here.
that. You know, what
It,
better
it,
movie
it,
to have up there? That's one of the all-time greats, isn't it?
I've been wanting since we've started this to have a little background,
Mm.
and because this is also our dining room, it's a little bit difficult. It's Hong Kong. I don't have a staged room like a lot of people have, so we have to make do, and this is us upping our game a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've got like just shelves of chaos behind me, but I have tried to do a little something special for today because very sad news is that the great David Lynch passed away. I think the news broke yesterday morning when we're recording
Yeah,
this
yeah,
now. And I've got almost all of his stuff on
yeah.
physical media, so I just thought I'd throw it
I
all
see
up
some
there.
gems back there. I see some gems.
That's it. I don't have updated 4K. I haven't upgraded everything yet to a 4K UHD. There's a couple of things I've still only got on DVD, Inland Empire, and a
Yeah.
couple of others. But it's all there with one glaring omission that I think we'll get to shortly. But yeah, no, incredibly sad news. I don't think it was wholly unexpected, but at the same time, a real great loss to the community. I think he was still
Yeah.
very much kind of in the community, out there. You know, his voice and his presence was still felt. I mean, he had that cameo in The Fablemans just a year or two ago, didn't
Yeah,
he, playing
yeah,
John Ford?
yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if why I was surprised. I don't think surprised is even the right word, but it was quite incredible just the outpouring of emotion. Like my social media in the 36 hours since the news broke has just been nothing but David Lynch related
I
eulogizing
was
memorials, quotes, what comments, whatever.
I've been surprised by that. And I felt the same thing. As soon as I saw that David Lynch had passed, I woke up to the news and I immediately felt I had to post on Facebook because of the impact he's had on me. I mean, other filmmakers have died, actors have died, and to varying degrees of outpouring grief, either by myself or others. But like yourself, I was shocked or pleasantly surprised
Mm.
by the sheer number of posts I was seeing of the impact and the loss that we're experiencing with David Lynch. Because, yeah, for me, it's besides his films, which I have some glaring omissions we'll talk about, and I'm embarrassed to say there's some films that I haven't seen that I should have seen.
Mm.
But Twin Peaks changed me. I mean, there was a when I saw Twin Peaks for the first time, I thought, this is a guy that gets me. Like I love this. This is, and so yeah, I his passing is something to be mourned. And being a person of faith, I even included on my post that I believe his storytelling is not done. But that's my faith perspective.
Nice, nice. So, I mean, let's get into that. Were you on the Twin Peaks train? Like, I assume you saw it when it first
From the
came
beginning.
out in
From the beginning.
1990. Do you remember
Yeah,
sort of sitting down for episode one?
and really quick anecdote is, yeah, I don't think I saw episode one, but it was so huge that I think they rebroadcast it, and so that people could pick up on what happened, and so I did, and then so I was right at the beginning of the train, and I ended up going. That's when I left for Hong Kong, and I had a friend of mine back then who recorded every episode on VHS. And when I got home, it's one of the first things I've ever binge watched. I watched every episode he'd recorded for me when I got back from Hong Kong, and it blew my mind. I mean, to the point where, and this is a really quick anecdote, is I fell in love with my now wife, but I had to go, declare my lover, and she was going to be at an event 19 hours away in Oklahoma, and I live in Detroit. I drove from Detroit 19 hours to, I think it was Tulsa, and I got so tired about like 1 or 2 in the morning that I pulled over. And this is coming right off of watching just every episode of season. And it was season 1 and 2. That was it because I'd left. Anyhow, Bob had been revealed, the demon, and
Mm.
I remember pulling over in a rest area, and because I didn't have any money, I was like 24 years old, and I put up in the window some privacy, hangers, some clothes because I'm in a rest area and there's cars all over the place and weird things happen at rest areas, and the whole night. I remember kept waking up. I was going to see Bob's face in the window, and it just I still remember that the power of David Lynch to take a show that is both humorous, insightful, a crime procedural, and still scare the absolute shit out of me is brilliant.
That's superb. That is really something. Because I was introduced to it by my elder sister, the same time that the rest of the UK was introduced to it. This was back in what 1990, and I remember it
Yeah.
premiered in the US in like April, and then it
Hmm.
didn't start playing in the UK till that October. And this was back in the
Right.
day, pre-internet, so it didn't get spoiled, and people didn't even really know. I mean, as it turned out, the killer hadn't been revealed by the end of season one
Yeah.
anyway. But we had like sort of 6 months of buzz slowly brewing, like who killed Laura Palmer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember when the first episode aired, it was during the holidays. I think it was like the half-term holidays in October, and the family had gone on holiday. We had rented this little cottage in the countryside where we used to go, and my sister, who was probably 14, 15 at the time, she's a couple of years older than me, she had said, sort of, "Oh, there's this new show. But we have to watch
Yeah.
this new show. It's the biggest thing apparently, and everybody's in for it." And I remember my mum is such a big fan of like murder mysteries, like Miss
Yeah.
Marple and Poirot
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Murder She Wrote and all that kind of stuff. So she was in, and I remember we sat down, and it was just the most baffling, perplexing, kind of odd, odd stuff. I was like, I couldn't articulate, and I can barely do it now. What was different about it? What was strange about it?
Yeah.
Because I was like, all the pieces are there. You've got the
Well,
murder, you've got the small
the
town.
dancing midget. You got a dancing midget. That's different
Right. I
about
mean,
it.
I can't remember if he was in the first episode or not, but
Yeah.
it was there was just something ever so slightly off, and Agent Dale Cooper is slightly odd, when he comes into
Yeah.
town, and he's obsessed with pie and coffee, but there's something more to it than that. And then I remember the fact that I watched that first episode and I was like, I don't know what to make of that at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't keep watching it.
Hmm.
Part of it was because I was at a boarding school and it's kind of hard to watch. But I remember the next thing I saw of it was, again, it must have been a school holiday and my sister stuck with it. And it was somewhere in season two. And I
Right.
walked in and there was a horse standing in the living room in an episode. And I was kind of like, huh? I was like, have they revealed the killer yet? And she was like, yeah, it's that guy, but the guy in the mirror, not the guy looking at him in the mirror or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about this one. And I just kind of remember just walking out of the room and being like, I don't understand what's going on with that show. And
Yeah.
to this day, my big confession is I have not watched all of Twin Peaks.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, I've tried a few times to watch it, and the last time, and I have it all. And when the return came out, I bought that as soon as it was
Yeah.
available, sitting right there, still sealed because I
Oh,
don't want to watch
you
it.
haven't watched The Return?
No,
Oh
I don't,
goodness.
because I
Oh,
don't want to watch
goodness.
it. I don't want to watch it until I get to it.
Right.
Until I've watched
Yeah.
all of season one and season two. And I think I've watched season one probably 3 times now. Because every time I
Yeah.
sit down to watch it, I'm like, okay, start from the beginning. And season one is 8 episodes. It's really good. It's quite tight. And then it immediately jump into season two. And then something happens about halfway through season two. And apparently this is the general consensus is that just something happens with the tone and the pace of the thing, and they kind of solve the murder about halfway through, and Agent Cooper gets suspended from the FBI, and somewhere around that time, every time I've attempted to watch it, I just hit a brick wall and I'm just like, I don't get this anymore, or I'm just not interested anymore. It just
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah. It
really
does
engaged me.
fade. Yeah, I think, Twin Peaks was so groundbreaking. I mean, not
Mm,
unlike Lost or these other, it was really the precursor to these serials that came later where you couldn't do reruns because we're telling a sequential story. And once obviously the murder was solved, a lot of interest faded. But if I think in hindsight, now knowing what we know now, we would already have created a new plot before you solve that. So you're bringing people further along. But I don't think TV had evolved yet enough at that stage to figure that out. And
right, right.
fortunately, though, Lynch, you've got to watch Twin Peaks: The Return. But you're right, you've got to watch the last episode of season two
Well,
because it
yeah,
just
I've spoken to a couple of people about this, and they've said, yeah, it really falls off. Go back, just watch the last two episodes of season two, and then you can get into the return. And
it's
I thought I don't
yeah,
want to do
it's
that. I thought I
yeah.
don't want to do that. The good thing is that my last attempt was only about a year ago. So I got halfway through and I remember where I got to. And so, yes, I wish it was under better circumstances, but last night I opened a bottle of wine, sat down, and was like, I'm not going to go through it all again. Maybe one day, but I'm just going to pick it
Mhm.
up where I got to. I think I'm on it was like episode 19,
Mhm.
and so he's been suspended, and some other nonsense is going on. It's just kind of around the time that David Duchovny's cross-dressing agent comes into the show, and so I was like, right, I'm just going to start there. And then last night I sat down and I watched 5 episodes back to back. So that's a good
Yeah.
solid kind of like 4 hours of Twin Peaks. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I don't have much to do this weekend. I'm not, so I'm gonna at the very least this weekend I'm gonna finish season two, and
Yeah.
that is the hump I've never been able to get over. And I know that as soon as I do that, I will very happily, very enthusiastically jump straight into season three. Finally.
Yeah. Push through, do it. It's fantastic.
So is
Damn
that
fine cup of coffee.
well? There you go. Eve, I get that reference.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think Dale Cooper has to be one of the top five greatest TV characters ever created. I love, and who better to personify that character than Kyle MacLachlan? I mean, for me, he will always be Agent Dale Cooper. And it's unfortunate that not more. Obviously, we have, thankfully, The Return, and we have 16 episodes. Although, one of the criticisms, and it's as much as I like The Return, uh, often Kyle MacLachlan is not always playing the Dale Cooper character. He's playing other
Whoa, whoa,
characters.
whoa, hey,
Yeah. And
whoa.
so that's all I'll say. And if I have a criticism, I just want more Dale Cooper. Like the more
Mm.
Dale Cooper you get, the better. And so I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but
Even
yeah,
though this is a spoiler show.
yeah, but not for each other. I think we could draw the line there. It's like the ship sinks. Ha!
Yeah.
So was that? Do you remember engaging with any sort of David Lynch stuff before that? Because I was trying to work this out for myself, and
Elephant Man.
I
I'd seen Elephant Man.
I think I had seen Elephant Man, but obviously the one I know for sure is that I'd definitely seen Dune. I'd seen that a few times
Oh, yes,
because
yes.
I was a kid, but I was up to here in Star Wars and
Yeah.
all of that kind of stuff, and I think my mum was quite gladly just shoveling more and more sci-fi stuff at me, and that was in my sort of DNA by that stage, almost to a point where I wasn't sure what was Star Wars and what was Dune, because I was watching it all
Right.
at the same time at a young age. But so I would say almost certainly it was Dune was the first thing I saw, just because time wise
Yeah.
I was the right age for it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Dune for me was, and we've talked about it when we reviewed the Villeneuve versions. Fight me on it, anybody out there, but
And I've tried.
I still think Lynch's Dune is in many ways the superior Dune adaptation. I think he captures some of what's in the Frank Herbert novel much better than the Villeneuve version. I think obviously technologies change, and Villeneuve is a wonderful director and filmmaker, and the new Dunes are wonderful. But here's the thing: I have not gone back to rewatch the Dune movies,
Okay.
and I've rewatched the Lynch Dune film many, many times, and I will continue to watch it many, many times. But I'm not going to sit there, oh, I got nothing to do. I'll watch the Villeneuve Dune. But I'm going to watch that Baron Harkonnen. Lynch knows
Uh-huh.
how to make a Harkonnen.
Oh yeah, I mean, the whole heart plug
Yeah.
moment, that really did scar me. That is one of
Yeah.
those childhood scary moments that I always come back to. I remember just being absolutely terrified and horrified by that.
Totally. I mean, some of the liberties he did take, like the weirding modules and the heart plugs, to me, it's fine. I don't mind some of those liberties because he captured the spirit of the film or of the book better. I don't want to compare them too much because I do like the
Mm,
Villeneuve version,
mm.
but Lynch's world is the world that interests me.
I think that's totally fair. And you know, as much as I am willing to concede that Dune as a movie struggles, particularly in the
Hmm.
second half,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the things that he creates and he manifests in that movie
Hmm.
are just incredible. You know,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
I like the shields, and I mean the Sting in his underwear. You know, is obviously
Yeah. Yeah.
superb. I love all the costumes, the Bene Gesserit, that incredible vessel that the space what they call the spacing guild guy
Racing
comes
Guild.
in.
Yeah.
You know, the big sort of slug thing.
Yeah.
That whole image is just like, okay, this is bonkers. This is absolutely
Yeah.
nuts. So you know, there's so much in that movie to love, you know, and I'm not some Herbert
Yeah.
purist that's like that has, you know, everything has to be beholden to the
Yeah.
source text. You know, I just want to see a good movie that really sells me on a whole
Yeah.
new world kind of thing.
Yeah. And we're here to celebrate Lynch. So,
Exactly, and I know that that's the one movie that he's all but disowned, and that it's, you know, he got kicked off it, and it's not available in anything like a director approved version.
no. No.
Nevertheless, it's got his name on it, and I love it, and therefore I love him for it.
Absolutely. His big gripe was he didn't get final cut on that, and it
Hmm.
just bothered him, I think. I was going to say
Well,
to the day he died, and
I
and
think it made him swear to never be in that situation again, and so I think that, you know, the repercussions of it are
mhm.
fantastic, because, you know,
Yeah.
he was like, you know, I am willing to not get funding, you know, and to make small independent movies the hard way if it means I get to tell the stories that I want. And so I think he came out of it, or we benefited from that
Yeah.
horrible
Yeah.
experience that he must have had. Now, I want to ask you something, because you alluded to the fact that you have some blind spots in your David
Yeah.
Lynch watching. So come on,
Yeah,
confess.
I'm embarrassed to say Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive, and I have no excuse for this. I have teed
Wow.
up. I think I told you before we started recording. This morning I started watching Mulholland Drive, and then we decided to record a little earlier, so it is still paused over there right now. I'm only about 10 or 15 minutes into it, but even the first 10 or 15 minutes, I'm like, "Oh my God, how have I not watched this film?" It's already delightfully weird. It already has that Lynchian fingerprint all over it, and that's why I would just wanted to hurry this recording up so I can get back to it. James.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's his best film.
Yeah, yeah,
You
and
know
that's
what?
what I've heard many times.
It's what, 2001, I
One,
think.
yeah,
Yeah, and he won Best Director at Cannes for it, and he was nominated for Best Director at the Oscars for his third and final time. And for a lot of people, you know, I think that there's the generation of sort of young cinephiles who were millennial cinephiles, essentially, you know, who rode that wave of internet sort of exposure, not only for their voices but also for the content.
hmm
That film kind of arrived at just the right time, when probably they were at film school and what have you, and so that helped kind of solidify its position, I think, as
hmm
his best film. It was the film that
Yeah.
they probably came to first, or that was the one in the conversation when they were tuning in and plugging in. I think it's great. I don't know it as well as some of the others, so I am very keen this week to rewatch it so that we can have a proper conversation about it next week,
Yeah.
which will be superb. I mean, for me, it's Eraserhead and Blue Velvet.
Okay.
And that just I tend to be like that, where it's the first ones I see that I kind of just lock in. I'm like, okay, these are different. I'm like that with the Coen brothers. I'm like that with kind of Scorsese. I'm like that. All the filmmakers that I really like, it tends to be the first couple of their films that I see.
Yeah.
Their early work. It's just
Sure.
the way
Sure. That
the
makes
way I'm
sense.
hardwired, and also just when I was at university and I was studying film, those were the two big ones. They were
Yeah.
like these great cult classics of one from the 70s, one from the 80s, and it was like if you hadn't seen those films, then you weren't worth your salt, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you were an aspiring cineast in the early 90s, you had to have seen those movies.
Right.
However you could. Blue Velvet was quite available, but I remember Eraserhead wasn't that available, and I remember a friend and I stumbling across a sort of an ex-rental VHS copy in like a
Yeah.
thrift store or something. And again, I was stuck at boarding school, but we were out one afternoon, and I remember we took it back to school and we sat down in like our TV room and watched it, and it was just like, what the hell? I remember that first viewing of Eraserhead so clearly, and I was probably sort of 17, 18. I was fairly evolved in my film watching, relatively speaking, certainly compared with watching Dune or something. And I was just like, I have never seen anything like it. I don't know. I know that this is brilliant, but I can't
Yeah.
quite put my finger on why. And then a couple of years after that, it was the 20th anniversary, and it got a big cinema re-release, and you were able to go see it on the big screen, and it was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
this was insane. But
Yeah, again, Blue Velvet is, the funny thing is, I've heard it talked about, and it's so part of the cultural zeitgeist, specifically the 90s you talk about. I've seen scenes. I've seen the Dennis Hopper thing. I've seen the Kyle MacLachlan. I feel like I know the film, but I haven't watched it. It's probably why I haven't watched it, is every time I have a chance, I'm thinking, oh, have I seen that? No, I haven't, but I feel like I have, and I go on to something else. But with the passing of David Lynch, I'm going to plug some of these holes that I have no excuse to have.
no, I mean that would make a kind of fantastic sort of double bill almost. Blue Velvet and then Mulholland Drive. I think there's a lot of. I think tonally they're quite similar. They're pitched. The pitch of it, if you like, is quite similar, and I think they're probably the two films that are closest to Twin Peaks in just sort of tone and subject matter as well. I mean, Mulholland Drive is kind of set in Hollywood, but it's still about the kind of I don't know, a slightly sort of mundane suburban entry point to it. I mean,
Yeah,
Blue Velvet
yeah.
it definitely is. But those two, yeah, those two are like arguably his best movies. So so that's great. You should coming to those now, for the
Well,
first
maybe
time
we
would
should
be quite
make those
special.
our movies for next week. We do a double bill if
That
you
would
want.
that would be great. I would love to revisit both of those. So
Do Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive. Perfect. That's
fantastic.
easy. But I did mention that there is a glaring omission in your little gems of Lynchian cinema over there, and that is the straight story.
That's true. Yeah, it is absolutely true. And not only do I not own a copy, I've never seen it. It's the one.
Ah,
It's the one David. Other than the entirety of Twin Peaks, it's the one of his movies that I've never watched. I think it came out at a time right as I was finishing university, and it just wasn't cool enough or
Yeah.
edgy enough or tough enough or
a
whatever.
guy riding on a lawnmower across country to see his
Yeah.
brother.
I mean, in my
Is,
defense, maybe it didn't get the biggest release, the widest release at the time, or I was just, graduating and busy.
The actor, is it Farnsworth? Help me
Yeah,
out with
Richard
that name.
Farnsworth.
Richard Farnsworth. He was nominated, I think, for
I
best
think he was best
actor.
actor.
Did he?
I think he
Yeah.
was. He didn't win, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he
He
was.
was. I
Nominated.
think he was nominated. The film's fantastic. It's probably the most normal of the
Mm.
Lynch films. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, obviously, doing a film about a guy riding his lawnmower, his 90-year-old man riding on his lawnmower to go to the funeral of his brother, is Lynchian in and of itself. But
Yeah.
but there's no surreal elements that I can remember in it. You know, most Lynch films have a surreal element to it where is this real? Is this not real? This is pretty straightforward, but it's a great movie. It's fantastic, and you should get around to seeing it.
I should. I think that's what it was. It was. I'd heard that it was David Lynch playing it straight. You know, it is
Yeah,
a straight story,
yeah,
and I think at the time I thought, well, that's not what I want from David Lynch, so I'm not going to
yeah.
bother. And then I don't know, I just dragged my heels and just never got around to it. It's the one movie he made for Disney. And then frustratingly, I mean, certainly here, it's not on Disney Plus or anything like that, and there's no
It's
good
true.
physical release of it. I'm
Right.
sure it's easy to find, but
Yeah.
so that's in my defense, but it's a pretty lousy defense in this day and age. So
Yeah.
maybe just if I, for my own completist sense, I should try and do that one as well. I mean, I would love to just sit down and rewatch all of his movies. I don't think I've got the time to do that, and I've made the commitment to finish
Yeah.
Twin Peaks now as well. But I think
Yeah.
yeah, Blue Velvet and Mulholland Drive for next week would be perfect.
We're doing a rewatch of Twin Peaks. We kind of paused it, and the reason we're pausing it is my son wants to watch it with us, and we've watched about the first 7 or 8 episodes of. I don't know. We've gotten into season 2 because I think season 1 is only like 7 or 8 episodes.
Yeah, it's pretty
So we're
short.
into season 2, but we haven't gotten to the killer yet. But it's something we're doing with our oldest son. He's 27, and he's out a lot, and so but we're going to have him on for every Best Picture. My son's a big cinephile, loves Lynch, loves Twin Peaks, so it's been fun watching that with him. One thing before we draw this kind of memoir, not memoir, memoriam. That's what I was looking for.
Mm.
This memoriam to a close was I loved the post you shared on Facebook from Kyle MacLachlan. It really captured Lynch as just a genuine nice person. And a lot of times in Hollywood, we hear about huge egos and craziness and people not being nice. And what I've heard over the years is as weird as Lynch can be portrayed in his movies or seen through his movies, it seems like in real life he was a pretty grounded guy who was a nice person.
Yeah, it was really quite something. I mean, obviously those two guys have known each other for so long, and arguably David Lynch, gave Carl MacLachlan his career. When he cast him in Dune and then Blue Velvet and then Twin Peaks, of course. He said something really, really nice. I just want to pull up one sentence that he said. He said, David was in tune with the universe and his own imagination on a level that seemed to be the best version of human. He was not interested in answers because he understood that questions are the drive that make us who we are. They are
I love
our
that.
breath. It's so poetic. It's so beautiful, and it was great to see him come out and say all of that publicly. Naomi Watts, who similarly was kind of discovered, if you like, by David. I mean, her role in Mulholland Drive is kind of her big break as
Yeah.
well, and she came out and said some very nice things. She wrote a really good sort of Facebook post as well. There was also a little viral video going around, which I think was from an older interview, but where she is reminiscing about a phone call she said. She was like, "Oh yeah, so David Lynch called me, and he was like, Naomi." Anyone who sits in the hand of Kong will be a film star forever, or something like that. And she does this really got a good impression of him, and it was like, yeah, that's superb.
Yeah, sometimes I get disappointed because someone who I kind of admire in the film industry, you end up, sometimes a Me Too movement hits them or, some kind of allegations prove to be true. And you think,
Mm.
then you have to distance the art from the person. And I love when I don't have to distance the art from the person. I can celebrate the art and the person. And to my knowledge, there's never been any issues
Oh
with
no.
David Lynch. He seems to have the respect of everyone, and that's another reason why I love this guy, and I'm sad to see his departure.
Yeah, I think the kind of incredible thing is that while his work was so kind of unique and so out there and so surreal and sort of it was almost like brazenly anti-mainstream,
Yeah,
anti-commercial. I felt that it was also in a bizarre way incredibly accessible because it wasn't. I never felt it had that stigma of like either you get it or you don't. I think it's a
right.
sensibility, you know, and of course it's not for everybody, but I think that you can come at it from any angle you want and find anything in it that you need. And I think what the outpourings have shown us is that you just look at the type of people who are stepping up and going, "Oh yeah, he was the best. He really spoke to me. He really touched me." And there is people from all walks of life. You know, it's sort of the most mainstream of filmmakers and actors and just friends and people I've seen on my social media. It's like everybody has a relationship to David Lynch's stuff because I think the beauty of something sort of surreal like that and sort of ambiguous like that with his work
Yeah,
is that you can take from it what you want,
yeah,
and you know you can what's the word, engage with it
yeah,
however you can and however you need to, and you will find something. Hopefully you will find something in it that speaks to you, and there's not going to be anybody, especially not him, stamping his foot going, no, that's not what I meant, you don't get it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, long before we talked about neurodivergent, many of the characters in his films or in Twin Peaks are neurodivergent. You know, they are on the spectrum. You know, Dale Cooper is on the spectrum. There's interaction. I think we were talking earlier about Severance. I was just getting ready to watch season 2 of Severance, and I rewatched season 1. And it was only with the passing of David Lynch and rewatching Severance that I thought this is very Lynchian. Like the way that people are talking and interacting, and the things that they get excited about are not the normal things that people get excited about. But in this world, they get excited about him, and that's what I liked about Lynch is he had a way of taking the things that are very simple and making them exciting, like the mundane, the simple things, like a Dale Cooper and a damn fine cup of coffee. We don't think about a coffee that much, but suddenly everybody was ordering cherry pie and coffee because he made cherry pie and coffee not a euphemism for sex or anything, but just something that every human should enjoy. and and there was something about the grounding of that I think it impacts people. It impacted me. And I'm not even sure I understood at the time how it impacted me or why it had such a resonance among the population.
Mm.
But looking back at it now in retrospect, he just connected to who we are as human beings. And sometimes we're weird.
Yeah, I think it's just taking a moment to recognize and acknowledge that in a world where there is sort of murder and horrifying things and strange people and unsettling circumstances, you know, you can sometimes just focus in and just you need to just kind of like enjoy and renovate. That's not the word I mean. Be
Wait,
reverential.
you're in my lane now. You're in my
Renovate.
lane, buddy. You want to, you're gonna mess up words.
Do I
You're,
need venerate? I don't know. Yeah, it's
yeah.
contagious. You just to enjoy and celebrate the simple
Yeah.
things in life, and I
Love
think
it.
he did a
Love
fantastic
it.
job of that. So anyway, please feel free to share your thoughts on David Lynch, what he meant to you, and your favorite films. If you've got any omissions that you wish to confess to, it's a safe space, so please go ahead and do that. If you want to hit us up on social media, please do so. I'm trying to use my Blue Sky account more than anything else, so you can find me there at Marshy MarshY00, and it would be great to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's Stephen Hackman. So follow. I'm going to be posting some of our upcoming episodes. So look for me there.
Excellent.
You
Until the
ought
next
to be
episode.
in pictures.
Bye bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be.